Welcome to the Alpine Church of Spiritual Living this morning. Glad to have you here. I'm going to be reading the thought for the week, and then as we get down to the bottom, if you're here in the room, you can join me in that bolded area. And if you're not in the room and you're seeing this video of the talk and the presentation today, and you get something out of it spiritually, something that moves you, and you would like to give us some acknowledgement of that, we'd love to have you go on our website, alpinechurchofspiritualliving.org, and push the donate button and give us your support in that manner. We would appreciate it. Okay, so let's go ahead then. Since we are all spiritual beings housed temporarily in this earth suit, how important it is to develop our spiritual awareness and consciousness, not only for our own individual earthly experience, but for the betterment of all mankind as well. The more each of us is aligned with spiritual integrity and universal love, the more profoundly we affect the world without having to do anything. We all have been programmed in some manner throughout our lives, whether we are consciously aware of it or not. All of us were born innocent, free, and open, but in growing up we become domesticated into living by society's expectations, rules, and values. It takes a strong person to drop society's games and our own ego and be willing to yield to the beckoning of our spiritual nature, to God. The sound of God is silence. As we turn off the clatter and clamor of the world, we become available to hear and listen to the sound of silence. To advance our spiritual growth takes conscious awareness. It takes trusting the divine will rather than our own. It takes acknowledging of myself that I do nothing, but it is the Father within that does the work. The Spirit's will is always higher than my own individual will. Hawkins states, the large self counts on the will of God to accomplish its goals, and therefore is capable of performing the miraculous. When you get to a certain level of consciousness, the miraculous becomes continuous. What people think is miraculous is really just our innocence, unquote. God made everything and called it good. I am good, you are good. Let us remove our blinders and let our light shine brightly. Say with me, I am now ready to let my personal will go so that my higher self leads and guides my way this very day. Miracles now come through me, and I am ever so grateful, and it is so. So we have been studying the wisdom of Dr. David R. Hawkins this month, and today I am drawing on the information from the chapter entitled The Fundamentals of Conscious Spiritual Growth. He lists 9 fundamentals of conscious spiritual growth, and I'm just going to give you a brief summary of what they are. Number 1, he has developing a sense of truth and integrity. Number 2 is attaining humility. 3 is self-awareness and self-mastery. 4 is accountability. 5 is simplifying your life. 6 is having a sense of purpose. 7 is lovingness. 8 is overcoming the darkness. And number 9 is developing a sense of humor. I don't know if he put them in a particular order, if what goes from the most important to the least. I don't know that he put that in there. But I think some of them can kind of be combined. When I look at developing a sense of truth and integrity, self-awareness and self-mastery, and accountability, those 3 all seem to blend together to me. Because for me, and it's been this way for as long as I remember, being honest, having integrity for myself is one of my cornerstones. It's one of the things that I have always felt comfortable doing in my life, is to have that honesty. And what we're talking about here is having self-honesty, having the awareness to know what I'm thinking, what I'm doing, where I'm at in life and to be honest about it. Not to let that ego tell us one thing and then we're doing something else. So it's important, I believe, to be accountable to ourselves first and foremost, so that way, when we go out into the world, we're bringing that integrity, we're bringing that solid foundation of what we are to the world. I think that it's important, if we are truly aware and desirous of being on this spiritual growth, this path of spiritually consciousness of what we're doing spiritually, that we are aware of that ego voice and when it's speaking to us, and that we are aware of when our higher self is speaking to us. And I'll have to tell you, my higher self, and I don't know how many of you have the same thing, it doesn't speak to me very often. Well, it doesn't yell at me too much like my ego does. And so, literally, I can count on two hands that I could recall the times in my life when my higher self has, had to scream at me almost to get my attention. And it has. And so we all know, we've heard this time and time again, that higher voice, that higher self, is a still small voice. And so it's important for us to be attuned to it when it speaks that softer voice, so it doesn't have to scream at us and yell at us. Because I think I said this last Sunday, that open our hearts that we may hear thy voice, which constantly comes from within. So that still small voice is constantly coming from within. Do you ever feel that you know it and hear it all the time? Do I hear any yeses? Yes. Good. Good. Yeah. That's important, because that way you know what to act and how to proceed at any time. I love that. One of the cornerstones of honesty and self-honesty is that of allowing ourselves to release judgments. When we get into a judgmental type of attitude, we are leaving the loving presence of our higher self behind. And I'm talking about be aware of self-judgment. Remember, all of these things that we're talking about has to begin within ourselves first before we can give it out. We have to love ourselves first before we can love others. We have to be non-judgmental of ourselves first before we will have that habit of not judging others. I think one of the most helpful things that we can do as a tool to give ourselves that key to allowing ourselves out, getting out of that judgmental type of attitude, and again, for ourselves and others, is just to say, I don't know. I don't know. Somebody will be doing something, and you initially, that ego will initially point the finger. They'll know exactly. Oh yeah, da 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 da. And if you can listen to your higher self say, I don't know. I really don't know where that person is coming from. And even us, sometimes we go, I don't know. What made me do that? What made me say that? I don't know. For me. So if we can create that habit of just saying, I don't know, that helps us do what Hawkins has been teaching in all the different books we've been reading, is to just let it go. Let the judgment go of ourselves and of others. Remember, we want to live in the moment now. And we're not living in the moment now when we are judging. when we are proclaiming that, oh, that's right, that's wrong, that should be that way, that shouldn't be that way. Because we want to live in the now of today, of this moment. I want to make a clarification. There's a difference between I don't know and I don't care. There is. Because when we are around people, especially people that we love, that we give our hearts to, we care. We want to care, but we don't necessarily know, even to those who are closest to us, what's going on really internally with them. So remember to make that distinction that you do care and you want to give of your love, but in an appropriate way. You know, not in an overbearing way, not in a I know better than you know. I know exactly what you need. It's not like that. I'm in a group. I probably told you this. With Martha Creek, we have a monthly call, and there's about 36 people on this, and a lot of them are ministers. A lot of them are folks that have been around spiritual life for a while, that they kind of gravitate to her, and so many of them, things will be brought up and they'll say, yeah, I caught myself again, knowing better, saying, yeah, I know what you need to do, giving advice, telling what they should do. And I guess it's just something that happens, when you think you know better. Because I'm educated, I'm this or that or whatever, wherever somebody's coming from in their ego. Remember, that's the ego talking. The main thing for us to do is to just love. Love, love, love. Without expectation, without qualification, not any of those things. So remember that we are to open our ears, open our awareness, open ourselves to listening to that higher self's still small voice, to be aware of it so that it can lead us, it can guide us. And if we hear something, we see something, there's no reason for us to pass it along. That's called gossiping. We don't need to be in a situation where we elevate and extend something that I don't know. But you know what? I'll tell you though that da 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 da. There's some excitement that comes from gossip, I guess, from making things up, from, oh, you know what? Da, 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 da. Do you know what? I heard that you were really sick. I heard you were really sick and you were going to have another operation. Really? How did that get out there in the airways? I'm fine. And so be aware that we need to greet life on life's terms, which is wholeness, which is acceptance, which is allowing anything and everything. I wanted to share with you part of what was in the book on page 130 at the bottom. Got my bookmark here. Talking about loving. The ultimate act of lovingness is to share that which you have become, so that your life becomes a prayer. You become that which you preach and teach. You hold with love. You hold with respect. You hold the world together in a way within your arms of love. Close your eyes now. I'm going to ask you to do this. Close your eyes now and picture the whole world and the whole population of the world. Open your heart and radiate that light to the world and embrace it. Let's all put out our arms around this whole world, every living thing on the world, every little toad, every kangaroo, every person, and put our arms around it and radiate that love and uplift the love by our intention. By becoming infinitely loving, we become the destiny of mankind, which is the realization of divinity within as the source of one's essence. Recognize that love that we are extending is giving and supporting and allowing love to come forth deeper and truer and in more wholeness to every being, everything on this earth. I think I've shared with you before that I'm in the Martin Luther King Jr. Community Choir. And we've been having a lot of concerts this month because it's Black History Month. And we had one yesterday, and I've noticed that the director, Ken Anderson, likes to engage the audience. And so he says, now, if you are at all from planet Earth, you have heard of this song. So I want you to join us to sing this song. And he sings, and he starts leading it. And then, of course, everyone joins in because everyone knows, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, right? And it's great because, a lot of times we're in, like yesterday we were in a retirement home. And, these folks are just sitting there. In fact, he has to remind them, you can clap your hands. You don't have to just sit there. And so I'm so excited, too, because they're going to be coming here. Yes, we're going to have them here in the big sanctuary. In our church, in the big sanctuary. Yeah, I'm going to get it nailed down, but I believe it's in April 23rd, I think is what I'm aiming for. So, yeah, it'll be fun. But every one of us, it has that little bright, shining light. And as Emerson said, when we can get our bloated nothingness out of the way of it and out of the way of the divine circuits, it can work. So it can let that light that we are, that light of love, that light of joy, that light of peace, shine forth. But to do that, we need to remove the layers that we have added on judgment, on blame, on, less than, thinking and feeling. Now, one of the important things that we've learned is that if you feel that way, let it out. Yes, let it bubble up, acknowledge it, let it be there. And then you can let it go. So we don't have to hang on to it. We don't have to suppress it and submerge it, put it under the rug and then we trip on it. So we want to let it out, but then know that we're being supported by this love within us. I'd like to reread one of the portions of the Thought for the Week. And as I get down to the bottom of it, I'd like you to, if you could bring your program out again, reiterate and say again that affirmation at the bottom. To advance our spiritual growth takes conscious awareness. It takes trusting the divine will rather than our own. It takes acknowledging of myself, I can do nothing. But it is the Father within that does the work. The Spirit's will is always higher than my own individual will. Hawkins states, the large self counts on the will of God to accomplish its goals and therefore is capable of performing the miraculous. When you get to a certain level of consciousness, the miraculous becomes continuous. How many of you want to have miracles in your life all the time? Yes. What people think is miraculous is really just our innocence, unquote. God made everything and called it good. I am good, you are good. Let us remove our blinders and let our light shine brightly. Say with me, I am now ready to let my personal will go so that my higher self leads and guides my way this day. Miracles now come through me, and I am ever so grateful, and it is so. And I'm not going to let you get away without joining me. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. In everything I do, I'm gonna let it shine. In everything I do, I'm gonna let it shine. In everything I do, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. You're shining beautifully. Love you. Namaste.